Now Sweeney, Dwayne Sweeney! Sweeney's over!
Can you please hand it over to your captain, Dwayne Sweeney?
Welcome to Real Tales with Sweens. This episode I chat with Troy Flavell. Troy is an ex-professional rugby player who played 22 tests for the All Blacks, represented New Zealand Sevens, New Zealand Māori, played his provincial rugby for North Harbour in Auckland, Super Rugby for the Chiefs and the Blues, and he also spent some time playing offshore, where he played for Toyota and Mitsubishi in Japan, and then went on to finish his professional career playing for Bayonne in the south of France. More recently, Troy has been one of the stars in the new hit TV show Match Fit. Match Fit was a show based here in New Zealand where some ex-All Black rugby stars showed how important it was to maintain a healthy lifestyle. In doing so, some of the ex-stars showed some amazing vulnerability as they shared their personal struggles. Troy is a very charismatic person and has a great nature, and he shares some great tales with us. From what it was like to be a part of Match Fit, taking on Willie Mason in Fight for Life, a charity boxing event, the early days of professional rugby, and his passion for fishing. We also share how special the New Zealand Māori team culture is to us, and what it was like to play professionally in Japan and how we found the Japanese culture. Troy also gives great insight into his time in France and so much more. As always, the show notes will be available on Instagram at Real Tales with Sweens and the website realtaleswithsweens.com. The website has all the links to listen on your favourite platform and some great content on all the guests. As Good George Brewing has partnered the podcast, all of the listeners will receive 10% off on your online purchases. Just enter the discount code REALTALES before checking out. Lastly, I want to thank Troy for sharing his tale. It was an absolute pleasure to sit down with your mate. Thanks for listening and enjoy the podcast. Sweet.
Pretty good setup.
Yeah. Alright, so I'm just sitting here with Troy Flavell, All Black number 990.
Nice to be here, Sweets.
Yeah. No, thank you very much for making the effort to come down. We've actually got a bit of a Christmas do for the podcast tonight at Good George, so yeah, you're pretty keen to come down.
Mate, I've timed that well, haven't I?
Yeah, I've timed it well. And the surf's up tomorrow at Raglan too.
Yeah, surf's pumping at Raglan tomorrow, which is just down the road from your place. So I'm got the board on top and ripping to it tomorrow.
Nice. I suppose just to kick it off, I remember playing against you when I first sort of came on the scene. You probably don't remember too much of me, but I definitely knew who you were. And
I remember your haircut.
your terrible haircuts. We were just talking about those, weren't we? Yeah, I don't know, probably had a rat's tail or something back then, a bit of a scucky ass mohawk. But yeah, and then lucky enough, obviously we're rivals right through my career, and I'm not a big fan of the Blues, North Harbour or Auckland, who you played for, but then was fortunate enough to play alongside you in the Pack the Park game down in Invercargill.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how you can go your whole career, play against these people, and you have you have an opinion on someone through, I guess, being enemies in terms of teams.
Yeah.
But it's not until you actually get to know that person that you actually have a real understanding of who they are.
Yeah, mate, and one thing I found, and I know exactly what you're saying there, but the one thing I have found, and this is international, even with international players, we're all very like-minded, and generally we've got the same sort of disciplines, the same sort of outlook on life. I've found with the guys I've sort of met over the years, either in a playing capacity or outside of like yourself, you fall into these games like Pack the Park where you've played against these guys all your life, like you say, and you always have your opinion of them, but it's not until you I guess the pressure of high level rugby goes off to one side, and you can start talking about things like life, mate, and what's that like for you, and how's life these days, and what are you up to, and so you start to build a bit of a rapport with these guys and get on a bit more of a personal level. Yeah.
Well, and there's no after matches anymore either, in professional rugby, so you lose that part of it too, where I assume in the early days, and like it is at club rugby, you have after matches, so you spend that time post the game off field talking about things like that, but with professional rugby and playing at 7:30 at night, and
Yeah.
you're not going to have a aftermatch at bloody 11 o'clock by the time you shower up and get up there sometimes.
Yeah.
Then you miss that connection, and it just becomes the rivalry on the field.
Yeah.
And unless you make an international team or a rep team like the New Zealand Maoris or the All Blacks or Sevens or something where you get to play alongside them, be in their team, then
Yeah.
you get a better understanding of the person.
Yep.
Then that's where friendships are formed, eh?
Yeah, that's
Otherwise
right.
it stays the rivalry juniorly.
Yeah, and like, mate, I kicked off early. I started in 97. So professional rugby was in its infancy, and we would have a beer after the game, even at super level. We would have a beer after the game and get to know these guys on a very personal level. But in my later years, like when I started playing Super 15, in my early 30s, it was very much, we're having a Powerade and we're on the bus and we're out here, So you never got to spend that time with the opposition at all.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that I want to talk a little bit about the Pack the Park and what an awesome concept that it was, and what a wicked event. Like I saw, because how it happened for me is I saw it sort of pop up on Sumo Stevenson's Instagram feed, and I was like, man, this looks like a bit of me. I would love to be involved in something like this. So I flicked him a message and like, how do I get involved in this?
Yeah.
And then he passed me on to Flinny, and then away we went. Then I ended up talking to Missy, and then next minute I'm booked in and going down, and I didn't really know what to expect. But then when I got there and seen the magnitude of the event and how many people got in behind it, I was really, really glad that I reached out to be involved, because I loved it.
Yeah, and to your credit, mate, not many people do that, A lot of guys, at our lovely mature age, there's sort of a handful of guys that work that circuit, so to speak. We go to all the Barbars games. There's probably about sort of 10 of us, 10 sort of core guys, and we get the phone call all the time, which is great. Like, I love being a part of it, and I'm still able to play, so why not play? But then there's always a few new guys that come along, and you came along this year, and that was bloody awesome, mate. And just meeting new guys, and now that obviously the pressures of rugby have fallen to the side, to the wayside now, you can start and just enjoying having a beer and playing the sport we love for an amazing event. Missy did an outstanding. The whole weekend from start to finish, as you know, was just outstanding, mate. And the post event after the game, but the whole city got on board.
Yeah,
all of Invercargill got on board. All the locals, all the local business dealers. Just made the whole event and the whole weekend that much better. It was great.
No, it was. I couldn't get over. Like, I had no idea what we were walking into for the post event. Did you think it was going to be like that?
Oh, hell no!
I thought there was going to be like the breakfast that we went to. I thought there'd be half a dozen tables. And,
It was so nice. Like, we had power fritters, as you know. We had like power fritters for breakfast. Yeah, went to the game. Guys were a few cans. Everyone was like farting and carrying on the bus, and never feed a married powers, But then we were here that post event, the aftermatch, mate. It was like we won the World Cup, eh? It was full on. Great weekend. Yeah, no,
it was wicked, man. I loved it. It was so much fun. And talking about you still playing at your age and being involved in those events, like, you were on fire that day. Still running around like you could be playing Mitre 10 Cup, no worries. And Ali was pretty chuffed with himself too. Eh?
Yeah, he was handy as well.
Yeah, he was telling everyone that he was making a comeback, and he was like, "Shit, I was good, Sweens."
Oh, mate, he wasn't saying that on the Sunday though. I'll tell you.
Yeah,
he ripped his bicep tendon.
That's right.
Yeah, so that was Ali's. That was actually Ali's first game since he's finished playing, professionally, and he was playing, to his credit, he was playing really well, but then he tore his bicep tendon that day.
Yeah. A few little grubber kicks and the rest of it. Yeah, he's a good, like, see, Ali's another one. Like, I never, obviously I grew up here in the Waikato and playing for the Chiefs, and I hated the Blues, hated Auckland, hated Ali.
Yeah, fair enough.
Like, I would have hated you too. Well, I did. Like, I can admit it now. like I played with Ali in the Barbars
Yeah.
and over in the UK, and I was just like, this dude's the man. Like
Yeah.
but it's just so funny how you have a perception of
Yeah.
somebody, but it's not until, and I've learned over time, because it's the same for me. Like, no doubt there's people that have certain opinions of me, and I hear a lot of them through the grapevine, like he's arrogant, arsehole, whatever, the rest of it. But it's like, you never met that person, so you don't actually know. You might not like the way that I play rugby, or you play rugby, or Ali plays rugby.
Yeah.
But go and have a beer with the dude,
Yeah.
talk to him, and they're like, oh, he's actually a good fella, and he
Yeah.
likes what I like. He likes fishing, and he enjoys hunting.
Oh, I've had that so many times when I've been in pubs and, having a beer with a guy, we're speaking for about half an hour, 40 minutes or whatever it is, and then at the end of the 40 minutes he goes, oh, you're actually a good guy. I'm like, yeah, oh, cheers, man.
Yeah.
So are you. Yeah, what some people sort of forget is, we're just the same as everybody else,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, and then from that, match fit was like, you had already started training prior to that game, eh? Like for the match fit, had you?
No,
No?
we haven't.
Yeah.
No. From the time we signed on for match fit until the time we started filming was 3 to 4 weeks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it happened within a short period of time.
Yeah.
Obviously due to COVID and whatnot, and just the short time frames to find a slot before Christmas, etc. But from the moment we knew that we were signing on for that, a few guys started training. Like Cribby, for example, like he was 143 clicks when he found out that he's going to be on the show. He started losing weight then, and he got down to 133 or something, and then he got so he actually lost about 10 kilos before he even came on the show. And then he continued to obviously progress and make those gains. But
well, that's a massive the feedback that has come around, and like I talked to different people from outside of rugby circles, and that everyone loved it, eh? Like, and just seeing the vulnerability of the guys to go on and basically show all. Like that's the hard thing to do. Bit easier for you in the nick that you're in. But like some of the guys, was it for you? We obviously, because you didn't need to go on to lose weight, it was more just around the awareness.
It was around the awareness. For me personally, it was about giving support as well. For the guys who were going through that, sort of all in mentality. Obviously, Cribby and I grew up together as since we were 4-year-olds basically. So we lived out of each other's houses, and so for me to be there and give him that support on a daily basis, making him accountable for what he's putting in his mouth, what kind of training he's doing, etc., etc. That was priceless for me.
It's pretty cool, and it's like the rugby community is amazing for that. Like the friendships that you form through it, because you basically live in this like baptism of fire when you play professional rugby. Like it's quite a small group, basically a squad that you deal with like on a daily basis. But the amount of pressure that comes from the outside in, and the just unawareness of the people on the outside to know what it's actually like on the inside, you just form this like really, really close friendship, and it's hard to kind of explain without being in it, eh?
It is. What we do essentially is we isolate ourselves as well, though, which, for good or bad, you do end up distancing yourself from the public. So there's always that persona of whether, where are these guys being arrogant? Are they not? Do they think they're a bit better? Well, it's a hard one to explain, but it's an interesting one, because you sort of have this isolated lifestyle, and then you actually want that a little bit as well, because because you're in the public arena, you want to distance yourself, and when you want family time, we're here right now with your wife and kids, but as you know, in your playing days, sometimes you want a little bit of distance. You just want to be a little bit selfish and have your family to yourself, and just have a Sunday where you can just run around on the grass with your kids and do all that kind of stuff without being in the public eye, and or go to a restaurant or whatever, and just being a normal person rather than Dwayne Sweeney, the rugby player.
Yeah, because it's I don't know. It is. It's just hard to explain, without sort of being in there. And exactly that, you might have a perception that somebody's arrogant, and like I know for a fact that people have thought that about me, but I was like the opposite. I had like imposter syndrome. I thought like, I shouldn't be here, hanging out with Marty Holler and John O'Gibbs and those sort of names when I started, because I grew up watching them as a kid. So I was just, like sort of my early teenage years when you're real impressionable and that's what you want to do, and you're starting to get excited about the big wide world, and oh man, you can be a professional rugby player now. And then I'm watching these guys on TV, and then at the age of 17, I'm alongside them. It's like, oh shit, like I shouldn't be here. Like, so you shelter yourself and you guard yourself off because you're actually trying to sort of hide your vulnerability, that you're like, well, actually, I shouldn't really be here, but it's more shyness than it is arrogance. Yeah,
and mate, that's totally natural, I think we all went through that, at one point or the other. It's an interesting one, because you're trying to find your feet. It's like anything, it's like a kid going to school for the first day, he's just trying to find your place in the world.
Yeah, and I think because
or within the team.
Within the team or society, like everyone has the exact same situation when they go to work. It's just not hundreds of thousands of people watching it live, like you're doing when you turn up to a new accountancy job. There's not like, it's not live on TV, and then you make a mistake and everyone goes, oh, you should have done that spreadsheet different.
But unfortunately that's what we sign up for, so you hear rugby players complain about that kind of stuff sometimes, and the media, etc., but it's part and parcel, and some people can deal with that quite well, and some guys actually struggle with it, And since I've been out of rugby, I've had some of those conversations with different players over the years, and they're some people have really taken it quite heavy,
Yeah, but it's like in New Zealand we have, I talk about this quite often with different people. Everybody in New Zealand is an expert of rugby because it's our national sport and we live and breathe it. Like I get told often, at the petrol station or the supermarket by random people in the public, there might be a 60-year-old lady and she's like, oh, you should have done this, and she's right most of the time, because we watch so much of it, we're so invested in it because the country's so good at the sport. But it's the reason, like as players, we need to understand the reason that we have a job is because our country's like that. If our country didn't give a shit about rugby, then we wouldn't be professional rugby players, Like, look how hard it is for the other sports in our country to be able to be pro, because they don't have the investment of the public behind them. So it's people aren't paying lots of money to watch it on TV, to sponsor teams, to go to live games like the rest of it. So we got to understand that, we like there's pressure for that, but the only reason you have pressure is allowing you to be actually do that as a job.
And where we differentiate ourselves from other international sides is, or other countries, is we're very humble. As Kiwis, we're very humble, mate. We're very approachable compared to other, especially if you're talking about the All Blacks. Like look at our All Blacks go deal with the public all the time, and they're really good at it. Some countries aren't like that. No. Well,
I noticed it. It wasn't, when I went overseas to Japan and then started dealing with some of the other international players I was just like blown away. I was like, man, no wonder the All Blacks are so successful, because like I wasn't an All Black, but in terms of what I could deal with and the adaptability that I had from my career in New Zealand, like I was playing with Test match Wallabies and Springboks, and I'm just like, mate, you wouldn't start Mitre 10 Cup with the bad habits that you have. Very talented players, but I was like, there's too much inconsistency, or you rely solely on one thing. Like in New Zealand, you can't do that because there's just someone else there that does everything and is committed and puts the time in and the effort and has the talent. So it's like, it's a very hard way to the top here in New Zealand.
Yeah, man. The pool of talent we have is huge. For such a small country. Just pump them out.
It's crazy. You could probably strip bloody 3 All Black sides at a World Cup and probably all make the semi-finals. If they got they didn't meet each other on the way. It's amazing, how much talent there is. You mentioned a little bit there, like the early days of pro rugby. Like I do want to talk about that. Like you kind of went into it a little bit, but go into it a bit more. You played Super Rugby in its second year, like 1997. It only started in 96. You know, like that's just after the World Cup when Jonah Lomu went nuts in 95. Like that's the glory days of, it was the infancy, like you said, of professional rugby. What changed from there, say 10 years later in 2007 when you're the captain for the Blues, and then that was my first year of Super Rugby.
Right.
What was the big difference like in that time?
Wow, mate.
Heaps.
Everything. Absolutely everything. You know, like everything. Everything. You know, from the GM right down. You know, right through the players, coaching staff, how they manage people, support, off-field support for players is a big one. You know, we didn't have all that support wrapped around players like they do these days. You know, you got NZRPA, that was also in its infancy in my sort of later years, so like they were still working themselves out. So today's players have all that support in place for them, which is outstanding because it was needed. For us, I think we touched on it earlier. It was like the Wild West, mate. Like every player sort of had to find his own way. And what rugby did give us was the ability to network. You know, and we didn't even know what networking was. It was this foreign word. I thought it was something to do with computers or something. You know? Yes, we had that ability. We had the confidence, you know, to go with it. And the guys were able to sort of navigate their way around. And some guys do really well, but some guys really struggled and found themselves, you know, substance abuse. You know, there was drugs, there was alcohol, there was guys getting counselling, there's guys falling into deep depression, and guys just weren't handling life well, especially once the rugby had finished. You know, so that whole transition time, post rugby, I'm talking about now. Transitioning out of rugby life into everyday life is very tough, you know, and I'm sure you could talk to any rugby player who's hung up the boots and ask them about that, and they will have a story to tell. Apart from that, obviously the game has changed from 1997 to today. A lot faster. There's still a lot of sponsors. I think just the overall player management has changed, and how they can achieve the best out of that player. You know, So and giving him all the support he needs to achieve that. You know.
Yeah. It seems that now they definitely get hold of players a lot younger than what it was like. You know, back then, like a lot of the guys you see that went through that area because I suppose they were in the amateur days and then going into professional, they all, you know, got careers as well. Like I look at a lot of the Waikato team, like Matthew Cooper's the CEO of Sport Waikato and things like that. And it's hard to think now whether, like someone like me, like I don't think I could be, I'm pretty sure I couldn't be CEO of anything except my own podcast because, you know, I've got no education post high school and because I didn't have time to do that, you know, like I have a lot of good skills that rugby has taught me, but then at the end of the day, if I walked in with a CV, it's like, okay, what'd you do for this 20 years apart from play rugby? It's like, well, I actually couldn't do anything else because I was doing everything I could to stay in the game. So you're, because
that's one. That's why I'm really happy that I started when I did. You know, I don't envy you of that. You know, like when we were younger or when we were sort of first starting out in pro rugby, we used to talk about doing your apprenticeship. You know, it was a common sort of term that we used. You know, done your apprenticeship. You know, and our apprenticeship was go play NPC, you know, go play whatever it was called back then, NPC.
It's called NPC back then,
ITM, whatever it is now. If you played NPC, how many years you played for Harbour, you know? So you got to do your apprenticeship, and not just in the rugby life, but in work life as well. You know, I left school when I was 16. I went building for a few years, you know. 6:30 training. You know, go do 6:30 trainings, go to the gym, then go to work all day, then go to training after work. You know, do that 4 days a week, you know, and then play rugby on Saturday, and then sometimes league on Sundays, you know.
A few beers on Saturday night too.
So, it was a term that we used quite often. Was you've done your apprenticeship, you know. That just sort of sprung into my mind. But
that was the same for me too. Like I did the exact same thing. Like I did my apprenticeship. I played for Waikato for 5 seasons before I played Super Rugby. But I made Super Rugby, it was seen to be young. But I obviously started for Waikato very young. I was still at school. But still, I did 5 seasons. And, the group that come through that time, there was, 3 All Blacks that were in that academy with me, like Brendan Leonard, Richard Kahui, Ella de Malmonch. We were all the same. We all came out of school at the same time. We all went through the academy. We had all played at least 2 or 3 years, or at least 3 years for Waikato before we made Super Rugby. And it was, what you did, but you were set up really well that when you went to Super Rugby, because you're NPC was the New Zealand Cup then when we did it, or NPC into New Zealand Cup, that level was so high, and I don't think it gets enough credit. Even the Mitre 10 Cup now, I don't think it gets enough credit for how hard it is. Everyone, and a lot of the super coaches do it, and a lot of the Mitre 10 Cup coaches and trainers do it too. They're like, oh, Super Rugby is such a big jump, and I was like, well, actually, it's not. Mitre 10 is, you look at the talent across that and the level of skill in the game itself, it's quick, it's fast. There might be a few more errors, but it's not a lot of difference because you got to remember that when you go up to, you pull the All Blacks, come back down into that, so those guys are around you, which makes your job easier. So it's not that big a jump. But if you've done that time.
If you've done the time.
But if you go in and do the 2 at the same time, then you're like, which is what's happening a lot now. Some of the boys that are in with Waikato have been earmarked and contracted on multi-year deals from when they were 16. So they knew when they finished school, I'm going to Waikato, I've got a full contract straight away with Mitre 10 Cup, and I've got a wider training group or draft contract with the Super Rugby, and in my second year I'm full, and I've got that for 3 years. It's what? Where's your apprenticeship? First 15 rugby is not apprenticeship.
Unfortunately, when you get guys like that, guys are full of talent, no hands, you know, and they get put in positions like that. It's great, but what happens when they take an injury or when they take a knock? And that's what the grind of ITM does. You get that mental toughness, and you know how to navigate your way through the tough times. So you can actually perform. I can shake that off. I can shake that off and focus on the next task. What's my next job here? And have that ability. Sometimes you've seen over the past where you've had really young guys make it super young, and they get thrown straight from school, straight into the deep end, basically, and mate, they freak out. It's like bloody throwing a kid in out there. They just don't know how to handle the environment or all the external pressures that come with it. Well,
I didn't. I was just lucky that I had an awesome support network in terms of family and friends around me, and that's
key.
That's key.
That's key.
But not everybody has that. No. And you can say that the NZRU is doing a lot better job in the Players Association about that, but it's still a very high risk environment to be like, well, you can only be with them at training, but you're not with them at home. I was lucky I could go home to mum and dad's. I had that support network of mum and dad being there. When I had a shit day, I could go home. They could read me like a book because they're my parents, and you sit down and they know exactly how you're feeling without you saying anything, and they start to ask the right questions to get you to talk. Because I wasn't going to go home and go, oh, I had a shit day and I'm feeling this and that, because you don't. It's just not human nature. So you think like, oh no, I need to suck it up, or I'm a rugby player now, I need to be tough, and I need to.
Oh, that's what I was about to say. Especially if you're a rugby player. You don't express all your heartfelt and
yeah, because you think it's seen as
had a bad day. Yeah, it was frowned upon, and you know, so it's good to see that people are changing their mindset now about that, with men's mental health and in that regard. Just jumping back to the match fit, like the response we've had since being showing that vulnerability on screen has been outstanding, mate. Like obviously the ratings were amazing. It's topped everything, but the response I've had in the public has been outstanding. I was down the beach hop last weekend, and I had a couple of big boys come up to me, and I was like, oh man, these guys are bigger than me, a lot bigger than me. Yeah. Like, oh, awesome what you did on the show, Flavs, I was just like, oh man, cheers, man, and that sparked a 20-minute conversation, with a complete stranger, and it was good, mate. Like the response, where the guys have been getting random messages, on their messenger feeds and whatnot, from complete strangers, this thanking them for showing their vulnerability, but talking about their kids, their 9-year-olds or 8-year-olds who are trying to find their place in this world, and and it's just great that it's a real it's been really encouraging to see All Blacks be so open to talk about their feelings, and it's sparked the whole thing within their families, or you got guys who have started training, or decided to start eating better, or want to be here for their grandkids, and it was just the response was outstanding.
Yeah, it's awesome, but it's also, as a society, we're getting a lot better at understanding that not everything's perfect too. Yeah, and I think
and being okay with it.
Yeah, being okay with it. Like I think social media for a while there was almost, because it was new, no one really knew how it worked, and now we've got a bit more educated on it. We understand that there's filters and different angles you can take photos to make you look better than what your body really is, or like these supermodels now will put photos up where they look terrible body wise because they're just like, well, this looks like this if you take it from this angle, and then so it's okay. Like we're not flawless, we're not perfect every time. It's good lighting, it's good cameras. So I think like as people were starting to understand that, okay, not everything's perfect. It's never going to be perfect. So I need to stop chasing perfection and just worry about,
and just embrace what you got.
Yeah, embrace what you got, enjoy it. Yeah. You want to be healthy, and that's the main thing, really.
It's not, being healthy, yeah.
But you do a bit of F45, eh?
Yeah, I'm a big F45 fan. Yeah, like yourself, mate.
Yeah. I've just recently, my brother and his wife opened one up in Moronsville, so I'm working there sort of 25, 30 hours a week, and do a class every day. And
great.
It's good, eh?
Oh, mate, I love it. I just love the buzz. I love the hype, the intensity.
Reminds me of footy, eh?
It does. It's that kind of workout, and you go in there, and it's 45 minutes, hammer and tongs. Music's cranked up. No workout's the same. I sound like a bloody business owner.
No, mate. Yeah. Sell it. Bro.
I'm not. I'm not a business owner, but I just really love it. And I pretty much did the same workout for about 22 years or something. I worked out one day, and I was just like, man, I'm so over this. And so I got into F45, and I've been doing it for the last 2 years.
Yeah. Well, that's what I love about it, and it's funny because I never really knew what it was about. I'd heard about it, and I knew a few people that kind of went there, but it wasn't until my brother and his wife opened it, and then I was like, oh. And then they asked if I wanted, like I was looking for a little bit of work in that, so they were like, oh, well, would you be keen to be like a assistant studio manager for us, because we're balancing young kids and stuff. I was like, yeah, I'll be keen as. It works with doing this podcast, allows me some time and stuff to do both. Yeah. So I was like, yeah, I'll be keen. And then we went along and did a session. We did a Hollywood session, 1 hour on a Saturday at another studio. Oh, I nearly died, eh? I was like, still pretty fit, like playing, club footy and stuff. And I hadn't done anything since the season had finished, like sort of 3 or 4 weeks, been for a couple of runs or whatever. Yeah. But I was just like, but I loved it, eh? Like straight away I was like, this is me, like, and then they start to explain the system and how it works, and I was like, oh man, like I get it, I totally get it, why people are Because people love it, eh? They get addicted to
Oh,
it.
you are, mate. It's the release of endorphins, at the end of the session. You're just like, oh, man, I was absolutely there. I'm coming back. I'm coming back tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's like sugar,
Yeah, nah, definitely. And also, like, talking about like charity side of things with Match for Net, you did Fight for Life too, eh?
Yeah,
Took on big Willie
yeah.
Mason.
Yeah, I did, mate. I was a bloody idiot. Sign up for that one.
I'll get you another beer.
Okay, mate. Yeah, they rang me. I was actually living in France at the time, and they rang me up and said, "Oh, would you like to fight for life?" And I was like, "Oh, no," because I've always sort of, I love the sport. I love the sport, and I've never really trained.
Had you had a fight before?
No, never fought in my life, but I did like having the bag, just as a form of training. And I said, "Yeah, I'll do it. And, oh, Flavs, you're gonna have to train, with the boxing trainer." "Oh, yeah, sweet as, don't worry about it." So I was building a house over there at the time, and I was like, "Yeah, I don't need to train. I'll be fit, Yeah, I'll be fit as a fiddle." Mate, I did no training. I was hammering tongs with this house I was building. So I was working long hours on the house and not enough time for training. Flew back here. He had done a 3-month training camp with Jeff Fennick, who was one of the top Aussie trainers. He just did the whole 3-month boxing camp thing.
Yeah. So
I got thrown in the deep end. First round, he absolutely pummeled me. I went back to my corner and I said, "Bro, what the hell is this?" And my mate who was my trainer as well, he just go, "Bro, you're going to have to pull something out of the bag here, bro." So the second round, I was like, "Oh, poor technique," but I managed to win that round, the second round, and then I drew in the third round with him. So I was pretty happy I got the draw, to be
hell of an
fair.
effort. Like, He's a bit of a weapon too, old Willie Mason, eh? Like pretty big man, pretty fit.
Yeah, he was a big man. I don't know what I was thinking, to be honest. Like I was.
Did you know you were fighting him when you signed up?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Oh, shit.
I thought, no, I always sort of backed my fitness, but mate, after about 30 seconds, honestly, my legs were jelly, absolute jelly. Yeah.
And did you think it was gonna be legs, or did you think, oh no, my arms will blow out?
Oh, I thought it might be my shoulders or something.
Yeah.
Legs
just gone.
My legs, those were like rubber. Yeah, yeah.
That'd be a pretty eerie, scary feeling being in the ring and having no feet under you.
Oh, you know,
you got to move.
Yeah, well, it's like in rugby, mate. You just like, I got the energy. I got the, I can pump out 80 minutes. Like you feel strong and knowing that, knowing that your body is equipped for this.
Yeah.
With rugby, and then I went into the ring. I was like, holy shit.
You're like, like 2-minute rounds. I'll be right. It was 2-minute rounds. 3?
Yeah, it was like 3 2-minute rounds. I was like, how hard can? Oh no. 3 3-minute rounds.
Yeah.
I was like, how hard can that be? It's like 9 minutes.
Yeah.
Shit.
I do 80 minutes.
Yeah. Pump 80.
Pump 80 at Pack the Park too.
Yeah.
Did you get a sub? Nah.
No,
neither.
No.
We were.
We just
We were a bit undercooked, our team though, eh? We didn't get the rub of the green with the local boys. I think they stitched us up a bit.
Yeah.
We're good roosters though.
Yeah,
We just didn't have the fit ones.
Mate. Off the park, we were the best. We're a long shot.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, well, what was it? We got home at 3:30, didn't we?
Yeah.
Saturday morning.
Yeah.
It wasn't the best prep, and then we had a couple of tins at lunch before.
Yeah, a few tins at lunch, and then but a few power fritters. And
I went out to warm up, and my heart rate was just through the roof. Did like a 50-meter jog, and I was like, ooh. Yeah, I was there. And then I'd been playing, I've been playing club rugby up until maybe 6 weeks prior to that. So, I'd hate to.
So you came in hustling.
Yeah, I'd hate to think how the other boys that hadn't been playing.
I think you helped me out actually. You're like, Flash, just run this gap outside me. I was like, okay, I'll try.
Yeah. No, but you made that big break when we scored from 22, eh?
Yeah. But yeah, you put me on the gap though.
Yeah. And I couldn't keep up with you though, and she took off.
I thought I was going to make it.
Yeah, so did I.
Fucking Allah started coming chasing me down.
How good a Nick was he in, eh?
Yeah, he's in great Nick.
Yeah.
Allah. He looks the same. Just honestly looks the same.
Moves the same too.
Moves the same. He's got the steps still. Just a few wrinkles.
Yeah, good balance in that, eh? But it was real funny because obviously I'm still connected to the playing group of now, and these guys were like Quinn Tupai is a good example, like centre for Waikato and the Chiefs. He was 2 when I debuted for Waikato, so and then I was playing with him. But then there's a lot of guys playing in this game that he'd never seen play rugby before,
Yeah.
And I'm just like, what? Like how? But then you forget, I forget how big the age gap is between us. But I was like, what? He's like, oh man, I love watching it. Like those old boys still got it, And I was like, bro, like once you got it, you got it. It's just you slow down, but you still got the vision, the skills. You still see things. Yeah. And it was. I made.
You might not get there, but
but you see it. Yeah, but there's the little touches, and that's the stuff you never lose. Like class is permanent. Form's temporary. But class is permanent. You got class, and if you look at the caliber of players that played, so yourself, you talked about yourself, Ali Williams, Andrew Hoare, Jimmy Cowan, Andrew Ellis. Like these are like not flash in the pan rugby players. These are like All Black greats. Peter Alatini, Carlos Spencer. Like these.
Yeah, that was great
big names. Tony Brown. It was pretty cool for me to play. Because a lot of those guys I'd actually played against when I was younger, so it was actually cool to reconnect, to play against them again. But older, like Ogre, Paul Miller, like we played my first year out of school. I played Chiefs development, and that was when he was signed up here with the Chiefs, and he'd come back and play a couple of games. And, he was always a good time. He taught me some bad habits on
and off the field.
On and off the field. But what about when he ran straight into that big fella? Down that touch line.
Yeah.
They reckon they've never seen that dude ever go backwards, eh? Yeah, but Oak set him on his
Is
ass.
that right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
They reckon they saw it coming and they're like, they'd never ever seen that fella ever go backwards.
Is
and
that
Oak
right?
just sat him down.
Come think I've never seen Oka go backwards either.
No, that would have been probably 300 kilos of weight hitting each other. The two of them.
There's some big bodies. Yep.
No, it was pretty cool. I want to go off rugby a little bit now and talk about passion for fishing. So we got a mate in common, so Tony Carpenter.
Yep.
And you've done some trips with him at the Great Barrier Reef. But where did the passion for fishing start for you?
Started young. I grew up out west Auckland. So we'll go out to Muriwai with my mate's uncle. Used to go out there quite a bit. Go out through the breakers and hit some west coast goodies. But in between that, we had the creek down the road. We didn't grow up with a lot of money or anything, so we'd jump on our bikes or walk, and we'll go down the creek and go eeling, or we'll go down to the wharf and just go for bait fish. Really. It started from there, mate, and I've always had a boat. I bought my first boat when I was 16, because I went building. It was the first thing I wanted to buy was a boat. Yeah. So I bought a little Fire Ant 12-footer.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and then I kept that for years, mate. Got one good fishing story. I was out with Ron Cribb. Yeah. And Marlo Tippy was a Samoan international rugby player. Yeah. We were out fishing out off Omaha, and I had like a little 30 horse, which is quite big for a 12-footer.
Yeah, yeah.
So we were cruising along Omaha, I was sort of showing off. I was showing off. I was just out past the breakers, I was like in and out, showing off. I shouldn't even been there. Yeah. And honestly, the outboard came up unhitched off the back of the boat. and I was trying to hold on to the outboard. It ripped up. And then it's like ripped out of my hand and scooted along the top of the water. No shit. Scooted along the top of the water by itself. The outboard just went across the top of the water for about 20 metres. And then and went under the water. And then we're just like, mate, I had no oars, no bait book, no nothing. No flares, no life jackets, nothing.
How old were you then?
Oh, mate, I would have been 19?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, 19 or something, long hair, trying to impress the chicks.
Yeah.
And we're stuck out there, mate. So we're trying to paddle into these waves with our hands and try and get back into shore. And it was a debacle, mate. Yeah, I ended up leaving I actually left the boat on the beach. Yeah. Didn't go back and get it.
I just left
it. I was like, screw this. This sucks, I was that embarrassed.
Yeah, you would have at that age.
Yeah. I was just like, this was my pride and joy too. And for me to leave it, I was.
You just would have left it because you wouldn't want anyone to see you.
Yeah. So no outboard, nothing. But a good mate of mine, Ben Allen and I, we do a lot of fishing out off the Knolls by the Hen and Chicks.
Yep.
Do a lot up that way.
Yeah, heard it. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, mate. Like at the back of the Knolls, out the back of the Mokes, and that we go for puka and blue nose and bit of bass if we're going to go a bit wider. Do a lot of snapper fishing, kingy fishing out off McGregor's and whatnot, up around Mangawai. Still go out the west coast quite a bit. Went out there a few weeks ago and
you messaged me,
we've got some good fish, mate. All between sort of 12 and 18 was the biggest on that day, but 12 and 18 pound,
big
just,
fish, eh?
Yeah, just monsters, mate. Came back and gave them all out to family and friends, which is cool, which I like doing.
Yeah, that's what I love about fishing. Is like
I keep nothing. I never keep fish. Yeah.
Like I enjoy eating it, but I keep enough for probably 2 feeds maybe with
same.
the family.
Yeah,
because I can't eat the same thing over and over, and I only like eating fish when it's fresh.
Yeah,
so I normally have dinner that night, and we'll have it the next
Honestly,
day.
I'm the fussiest Maori you'll ever meet.
Yeah.
When it comes to fish,
Yeah, and then I just love sharing it out. Like whenever I go for a fish and come back here and fill it up, I'll send the text out down the road, and whoever wants it, I drive down and drop it off. And I love how grateful people are for it too, because not everyone has the means, to get out there and catch fish.
As we know, what's fresh snapper these days? $48 a kilo or something. Yeah.
Here
you go. Here's a big bundle of fillets. Here's a big bundle of fillets.
Yeah.
Go for gold,
Yeah.
But I just love fishing and back to TC. Yeah, like we've had went for my mate's 40th. Went over there and the fishing on the Great Barrier Reef is bloody next level, man.
Yeah.
It's
Did you know Tony before you went over?
No, that's the first time I met him was on Hellraiser over in Cairns. Went out, we would have had, mate, probably 12 to 16 marlin.
Yeah.
Over 3 days.
Yeah.
And then
what a trip.
Yeah, it was outstanding, mate. And then it wasn't a matter of whether we'll catch one or not. It was how big's it going to be,
Yeah.
And then I went back the following year for my 40th.
Yeah.
So me and 3 other my closest mates, we went over there and I managed to get a 650 kilo black horn, which Tony Carpenter led for me about 3 or 4 times, and then we'll get it close to the boat, you jump on the lead, we'll pull it right in, then it'll go again. Did that about 3 or 4 times, and then it went about 30 metres off the back of the boat. No, not even that, probably 20 metres. And as I was fighting this fish, for the hour and a half or whatever it was, there was ocean sharks just hovering under the boat. So, onto it, mate. Like actually, we don't need to go chasing.
Yeah.
The fish is going to come. The fish is going to come to us.
Yeah.
So they actually stayed there, and then after about the third or fourth time of this fish being led,
they would have figured out it was tired.
Yeah, it was tired. And they came in, honestly, mate, and they whacked this fish to the point where it was totally out of the water, and the sharks were coming out sort of waist height. There was probably about 6 or 7 of these ocean sharks come out sort of waist height, just go whack, 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 and this marlin was sort of juggling on top of these ocean sharks out the back. Yeah.
Nature's cruel, eh?
Oh, mate. I was like, get their head in! So we managed to get the head in and, obviously measure the diameter, measure the girth. And, the skipper, he put it at 650 based on the measurements.
That's a big fish.
Yeah. So now it's...
like its bill would be like a baseball bat.
Oh, it's huge, man. I put a few rugby socks over the top of it and brought it back through customs and... to my surprise, they're like, come on through, Mr. Flavell. I was like, oh, sweet. Yeah, so it's now it's hanging in Fruno main office.
Oh, wicked.
On the North Shore, yeah.
Yeah. Is that on the North Shore, is it?
Yeah, it's in Wairau.
Yeah, and a good friend of yours is...
Yeah, Gareth Hodgson is the GM there.
Yep.
Yeah, and obviously Fruno speaks for itself, They do some amazing stuff.
Yeah,
and
pretty big brand.
Yeah, everyone's using the gear and, TC included, and a few other close mates who run charters that they all use it and swear by it. So.
Yeah, well, Tony loves it, eh?
Yeah.
He swears by it, and he really really enjoys it.
Mm.
Yeah, be a pretty cool brand to work with, I'd imagine.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
well,
is.
The GM must be a good bastard if he's your mate.
Yeah, but resilient.
Resilient.
Yeah, no, he's a good bastard, and obviously with all our fishing trips, we're Team Peruno.
Yep.
And there's a good group of us cool guys who, each time he's got a new sounder out or whatever, we pick it up and give them our opinions and whatnot. Yeah, assessors. Yeah. Official assessors.
Yeah.
But more importantly, mate, it's just about mates getting together and having a good time. As you know, fishing allows that.
Yeah, I love fishing. For that, like just being able to go out. I really enjoy going out on the west coast here because you lose cell phone reception at about. In the summer when we go out marlin fishing, you lose cell phone reception about the 50 metre mark. Yeah. And then it's just it's just dead. Silent. You're there with your mates and you spin some shit and you're not chasing emails and different things that when work's trying to pull you back, you were just out there and
you don't like fielding calls from your wife? Or?
No, I enjoy funny you say that because I spoke to her about this and because I find that having that time and that break, or not the break, but having been like a forced disconnection, that I'm that much more excited to come home. At the end of the day,
100%,
having that forced gap of I can't actually talk to her. I can't, talk to my boys. So that when I come home, I'm like, yes, I'm actually excited to come home, share what I've been doing. Same if I go for a hunt and you lose reception for a couple of days, and then you come back, it's so much more. I don't know, it's I don't really know the right word to explain, but I'm just excited, really, really excited to get back home and have that connection again.
Yep, totally get it.
You get it, eh?
Yeah, 100%.
You'd get it, because you're an outdoorsman.
I totally get it. And it's just having that time to yourself, mate. You can reflect and focus on what you enjoy doing. And just really lap that up. Make the most of that. Whatever. Whether it's hunting or fishing or
or F45
or F45. But it's I know exactly what you're saying.
I want to jump back into rugby and talk about your time with the New Zealand Maoris. So, because for me, your Māori heritage, we're talking, prior to coming on, your tainui and Ngāpuhi, same as me, but I grew up disconnected, I suppose, from my Māori culture. So my mum, she didn't speak te reo, she's got a Māori father and a Pākehā mum, and she grew up very white, or we call it plastic, she's got the colour, but she's not actually Māori. But it was just the way that she was brought up, and I sort of followed suit. But it wasn't until I made the Māoris and started to learn about my heritage and where I sort of came from, and then you start to get that connection with your teammates. Because for me, that team, there's nothing like it. You're actually connected by blood, which, the All Blacks, you're connected to the country because you choose to live there. But to actually say you have the same blood as your teammates is a pretty powerful thing. How did you find that environment?
Oh, mate, those are some of my best years, to be fair, I really enjoyed the All Blacks as well, but for me, the Māori All Blacks took the cake, And you're right, you feel that bond instantly, you're in there doing waiatas together. I grew up very similar to you, mate, we use the term plastic, but I grew up in Auckland, Auckland with my parents, my mum's Pākehā and my dad's Māori. And I was always a little bit jealous or envy of my cousins because my dad was the youngest of 4 brothers, and all his brothers spoke Māori. They learnt Māori, and so all his kids learnt Māori. So we'll go to the marae, and I'll be the Aucklander turning up with the marae, and I could never speak Māori. So they knew all the customs, procedure, protocol. And I was like, oh, okay. So I always felt a little bit jealous of that. But so when Dad went, because Dad was the youngest, when he went to school, that's when they started strapping guys, no speaking Māori at school. but over in my later years, I've been trying to reconnect with that as well. But for me, Māori All Blacks was outstanding, man. We had Matt DePoe, Jim Love, were our coaches, and just the whole environment was good, mate. It was a real play hard. I know it sounds bad, but play hard, party hard, type mentality, you know. And we would do the work. It was such a big pool of talent, mate. Like the depth within our team was ridiculous. You know, we had like the Norm Berrymans and Carlos and Adrian Cashmore and guys who went on to obviously bigger things with not bigger things, but great things with the All Blacks as well. You know, just really top players, and they but they're like, mate, I'm just on the messenger feed now with the All Blacks, the Māori All Blacks in '98. Yeah, we toured Scotland, and mate, we said, we should get together, and honestly, within 2 hours, we had that whole team on board. And we're arranging a get together in February next year. So
wicked.
But just mate, and it sits in everyone's memory bank, very fondly. So
you talked about it there, but like play hard, party hard. For me, like you have to have balance in life to be successful, and I think that's why the Māoris works, like, because it is a short campaign. Like, I don't think you could party as hard as the Māoris do and play as hard for a sustained period of like a whole Super Rugby campaign. But to go and do it for a month or 3 weeks or 2 games or a game, easily you can pull that off. You know, but I just find, because I did it through my career, there'd be long periods where I would be really strict on my diet, wouldn't drink and the rest of it, and I'd get super, super fit, and then all of a sudden, then I would, and you'd hit kind of a sweet spot, start playing well, and then you'd overdo it, and then you'd get flat, and then you go and blow out on the piss, so you're going on this massive wave, big spikes of form. But it wasn't until I realised, like, well, every time I do this, it works to a point, and then I go too far, and then I drop away, and then I go and drink piss again, or, relax a bit more, stop training as hard, focus more on my life outside of rugby, and then I find the sweet spot again, but then I do that for too long, and I get out of shape or lose a little bit of focus, and then it goes shit. And then I was like, well, there's got to be a better way. So once I started to flatten the curve and be more balanced of how I spent my time outside of rugby, mixed with, having beers with my teammates or my mates outside of rugby, and then training, once I balanced that out, then I became a lot more consistent.
See, well, a lot of people don't have that awareness, mate, like that, what you just mentioned there. A lot of that's usually where you see players sort of drop off, and fall away, and not continue to play at a certain level of rugby, because they don't have the awareness like what you just described there. A lot of people get on the down and they carry on going down, and never sort of work it out, never take the blinkers off, and sort of assess where they are and what changes might be needed, etc. So
for me, that's the only reason I stayed in the game so long, I reckon, is because I got there. People always ask, like, oh man, you must be like super strict on your diet and like train hard out and the rest of it. And I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, well, actually, I don't do either of those perfectly. Like, I do them at times, but I don't do it that well. And I'm like, am I just super lucky, or am I actually super smart? Like, I don't know, I kind of thought it was luck for years. I'm like, shit, I'm dodging a bullet here, like, sort of surviving. But then now you get further down the track and look back, and I look at other people's careers and the way they went, guys I played with, and I'm like, shit, he just overdid it, burnt out, lost the love of it. And I still now, like, it's pissed down with rain here on a Tuesday night, I'm still excited to get in my car and drive 40 minutes to go to club training. Like, at 36, like, that's a bit, So there's got to be something to that. Like, I must have either done something right, or I just have this fire in me that just won't go out, if that makes sense. Like,
most guys who have played for as long as you have will have the fire. And you're competitive, mate, by nature. And you don't want to. You got that drive. If you still have the ability to play, then play.
Well, everyone keeps saying, "Hey, you're a long time retired."
That's why, man. That's why I always put my hands up for all those charity games and all that. I love having a crack. Yeah, or challenge myself in another way. I did Oxfam last year, which I really enjoyed. That was a 100-kilometre walk.
Yeah.
So just putting yourself out there. I like surfing. Sometimes I throw myself on some real big surf. Too big. I shouldn't actually be out there. I shouldn't be out there by any stretch of the imagination. Guys out there, way more experienced than what I have. But that's what life's about, man.
Yeah.
Pushing it.
Yeah, well, because it's funny you sort of mentioned that there in the Oxfam thing, because I've always said that I want to run a marathon. Like, I don't give a shit how fast I do it. Like, I just want to do it, so I've done it, like a bucket list kind of thing. And a mate of mine, Jack Devan, from Morrinsville, he is a mate, but he's just a young fella in Morrinsville, and he put a post on Instagram a couple of weeks ago and was like, I want to do this... now that I'm talking about this, I'm going to have to do it. But he put this post up, and he wanted to create he put the post, he said, I want to create a movement where I can get 100 people together. We run a marathon. Each of us raise $1,000 and we donate it to mental health in New Zealand. So he just put this post up, and I just replied. I saw it, and I was like, I've always said I wanted to do one, or I was going to do one. So I was like, well, if I don't say yes now, I'll end up putting it off, and I'll get to a point where I end up stop playing rugby, or I lose a lot of fitness, and then I'm going to have to train super, super hard to get to a point to be able to just complete it. So I was like, fuck it, I'm going to do it. So I just said, yeah, bro, I'm in. And then he was like, oh, it's sweet. And then I started talking about it at the gym with different people in the community, and all of a sudden, like, everyone's like, oh, man, like, yep, we'd be keen as to get in behind this. And I sort of said to him, I was like, oh, how are we going to do this? Like, are we going to run it here in Morrinsville? Because everyone was asking, like, all the local businesses in Morrinsville started talking. They're like, oh, we're going to run it here. Are you going to run it here in Morrinsville? And I was like, oh, I don't know. So I asked Jack, and he was like, oh, I thought Morrinsville doesn't have a marathon. They only have a half. And I was like, bro, we'll just run our own. Like, if 10 people turn up and do it, 10. If it's just me and you, then we'll just do it. Like, it doesn't matter. We'll just sort of map it out. But then it's kind of growing, and like, I hope it becomes a really big thing, because it'll be awesome for the town, awesome for the awareness. Yeah. And it'll be really, really...
I mean, I've been, it's on my bucket list still.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've done 2 halves.
Yep.
2 halves. But I'd like to make it a whole. I'll sign up, mate.
Yeah, we'll sign up.
I'll sign up. Sign me up.
Nice.
I'm in.
Yeah. No, I think it'll... I think we sort of started talking and messaging kind of back and forward. And I said to him, I was like, bro, I think this could get a lot bigger than what we think it's going to be, because it's for a good cause and a good reason. Yeah. And... at the end of the day, like, people just need to be made aware of things, and they'll donate, they'll give their time. Yeah. And I like, if we raise $1, we raise $1, but if we're just talking about it and making an awareness of it, like that for me is a positive thing. Yeah. It's not about the money and how much money we raise. Yeah. Like, the more money, obviously, the better. Yeah. But at the end of the day, if we, like I said, if we raise $1, at least it's $1 for a good reason. Yeah.
I'm not sure about the how many hills you got in Morrinsville.
Yeah, no, it's pretty flat.
Is it pretty flat? Okay, I was going to suggest we could go over the mountain and just run the beachfront or something.
Yeah. Something nice.
Nice and flat, dead flat,
Dead flat. Nah, it's pretty flat in Morrinsville.
Okay, oh, that's good. Good to hear.
Yeah. Well, no, we're committed to it now. So.
Yeah, okay. Yep, sign me up.
Once this goes public, where hopefully more people start talking, and if you're keen to get involved, send a message to my Instagram page, and then we'll sign you up, get involved.
Come join us.
Yeah. Or if you're a business and you want to donate, or person and you want to donate, then we'll work it all out. Details will come out, no doubt.
Costumes for Sweeney.
Oh, hell no.
Hashtag customs costumes.
I do want to talk about your move offshore too. So, like, you played in both Japan and France.
Yep.
What was your reasoning for going offshore to Japan, and did you have any regrets for the timing of it, like when you decided to go?
Yeah. So my first time around, I missed selection for the All Blacks, and opportunity arose for me to play in Nagoya for Toyota. So I went over there for 2 years. While I was over there, Ted got a hold of me and asked me to come back. So I came back and played for the All Blacks 2006 and 2007. Then I missed played the Tri Nations leading into the World Cup, and then I got the chop. So I signed with Mitsubishi over in Japan again.
Yeah.
Cheers for the good, George, mate. Yes, so signed, went over to Japan again, came back, and I was going to retire at that stage actually, but I was.
Were you?
Yeah, I was only sort of 30.
Yeah.
By
30 was old back then, though.
Yeah,
Hey.
yeah, sort of was. Like 30 was the sort of age where you start thinking about retirement. Obviously, that's shifted to sort of 35 these days. But you know, at the time, I sort of had enough of rugby and just getting a little bit frustrated with rugby, and you know, going to training, I wasn't really feeling. I sort of lost that spark and didn't really have a hunger for it. I came back to New Zealand for about 6 months with the family, and I was approached to, you know, I was thinking, you know, I was trying to find a new career, etc., and I got approached by a couple of clubs in France. So I had the choice of going to Paris or playing for Bayonne in the south of France, and I was very happy that I signed with Bayonne.
Yeah.
Not so much for the rugby, but the lifestyle in the south of France. I lived right on the beach.
Yeah.
Live right on the beach down there. I'd surf on my back doorstep, and you know, yeah, had an amazing time. Yeah.
Yeah. How did you find the difference in the cultures from like France to Japan, or to here as well? Like
Oh,
a lot
mate,
of similarities and
no,
different ways?
three completely different
Yeah.
countries. Yeah, yeah, it's different. I don't know the word to describe it. They're so different, you know.
Yeah.
They're so different. Like you got New Zealand, we're a very humble type nation, and then we got Japan, and the people are beautiful, as you know. The food's amazing, but the lifestyle, you know, I didn't really sort of adapt to the concrete jungle. You know, I was living in Tokyo the last time round, and Nagoya for that matter. It was just very much a concrete jungle. You know, I'm born and bred in New Zealand. You know, I love the ocean, love the hills and mountains and the green. I love green. You know, and you don't get that in Japan, not really, unless you go in the sort of, you know, outside of the main cities.
Yeah. Well, like Japan too. Like I found Japanese society really difficult in terms of how they don't fight for things. If that makes sense. Like you would have noticed that with like I couldn't work it out to start with when I was playing. Like these Japanese boys that I was playing with would be like awesome one week, and then the next week they would just like not even try, and I'm just like what? And it took ages for me, you know, a couple of seasons to get to know them a little bit better and get to know the language better and understand the culture. And it was because they were playing their like senpais, their elders from their high school or from their university, so they would purposely not show them up. And I was just, it blew my mind. But when you see the way society is wired over there, like you get a job and that's your job till you retire, and the older you get, the more you get paid. It doesn't matter what role you have, you're always a natural progression, and the older you get, the more money you make. So they don't learn to fight for things. It's like they get a foot in the door. I guess they probably fight for the foot in the door, but once it's in there, they're like, oh, I'm here. And now I'm set for the rest of my life. As long as I don't commit a major felony, then I'm sorted.
I'm not sure if you know this, but Japan's got one of the biggest suicide rates in the world.
Yeah.
For that very point.
Yeah.
For the very fact that you just brought up, like when they get a job, if they lose that job, you know, the world is just ended for them. You know, and they'll never get re-employed from another employer. Like no one will touch them. Yeah, because there's a reason why you've just been fired. Yeah, and that's, you know, despite what the reason might be. Yeah, you know, you're just very frowned upon, and it's real senpai type mentality.
Well, you see it too, like even with the foreigners playing over there. There's no player movement like between teams like you see here. Like you'll sign and go to a team, but you're not getting much game time. So you're like, all right, like I want to push to play more. I want to go somewhere else. Yeah, it's like no, you play for Kyuden or Sanix.
Very submissive.
Or Mitsubishi. Yeah, like no, you can't come here. Yeah, like what?
Very submissive, extremely introverted society, isn't it? Yeah, you know. Nobody likes to put their hand up or stand out or but that works, you know. That works for them. That's just them, you know. And things like lining up. Very patient people, aren't they?
Yeah,
you know, you go somewhere on the weekend, like, there's a line like 300 metres long, and I don't know about you, but man, I'm like, I get itchy toes.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like looking around. Can I, you know,
Yeah.
how do I get to the front? You know.
Yeah.
But so I really struggle with that. But
I find too, like, how do they, like, to me, it seems like lateness isn't a thing over there because they're never in a rush. So it's like, is being late, like, is traffic just a legitimate excuse that, if there was traffic, like, all good? Like, it doesn't matter that you're late to work. Because you see it, like, the traffic's, like, you know, can be horrendous at times, but there's no road rage, no impatientness. Like, they just sit in it. Yeah. They get to work when they get to work, and then they work. Like, it's... But in New Zealand, if you were late because of traffic, like, you'll lose your job.
Yeah.
They'll be like, where were you? Like, and I was like, mate, traffic was jammed. Like, I was, not my fault. Like, you know, so people rage out because they're like, fuck, I'm going to lose my job if I don't get to work.
Yeah. Well, they're not volatile, are they?
Nah.
You know, and there's no big peaks or spikes or, you know, and their mannerism throughout the day, you know, they just sort of flatline it the whole way, you know.
Yeah. Until they
this is bullshit, you know.
Until they get on the piss and then they just lose the handle.
Yeah, lose the handle big time.
Yeah, I thought we like had a bad binge drinking culture in New Zealand, but over there, man, it's like if they drink, it's like balls to the wall.
Yeah,
like I'm
businessman.
Yeah, they just send it, Yeah, they send it and then they're done in an hour and a half.
Yeah, they do, mate. And but what we found was they were very welcoming. Like, we went to this real sort of like a new neighborhood, new subdivision in the middle of Tokyo, you know, and they would come to my gate. They'll never enter the front gate, and like I'll be, you know, the doors will always be closed. You don't actually ever go to somebody's house. You always meet them at the gate. You know, you say hello at the gate, say goodbye at the gate. How was your day at the gate? You know. Yeah. So I always have my gate open, and they used to freak out at that. Gate's open, you know, and I'll have the front door open, bit of music on or whatever, you know, I'll walk around, you know, just in board shorts and bare feet and all that, you know. Come in, you can come in. Oh, you know, they'll sort of freak out, but come in, it's okay, you know. Come out the back and, you know, put something on the barbecue or whatever, and they just... When we left there, like, honestly, it was like a scene out of the movies. We had the whole street was there. It probably would have been like easily, I'd like to say 50 people there. Yeah. And we were driving off, and the whole street, the whole community was running down the road crying and waving goodbye, and mate, it was just overwhelming, you know, like we've had that much effect on this neighbourhood, this community within 2 years of being there. Yeah, it was the same for me at Sanix. When I left Sanix, all the boys came around because it kind of like it was a bit of a surprise, like when it all kind of happened, and it happened real quick. Yeah. So I was sort of like, whoa, and then all the boys turned up at home, and the translator, like a couple of the boys went to high school in New Zealand that played, and so they were like translating for the boys because like my Japanese wasn't good enough for them to get their message really clearly across, and like poor translator, but he's crying the whole time because what these guys are saying is so emotional, so it's making him cry, which then makes me cry, and then I was just I felt for them, like having to translate it all, because those guys come in and like it was like a tangi, like it was crazy, like had exactly the same experience, But if you share so much of, like, you're very good at it, and I spoke about this on a couple other podcasts that I've done recently about you as a person, because I mentioned that you would be coming on the podcast, is like you're very giving of yourself and your time, and you, like, I really noticed that when I spent the time with you down at Pack the Park, like you're charismatic, you're comfortable to talk to anybody, you're just open and forward, and you engage in conversation, and you're like there in that moment with them, and that's quite a powerful thing. Like, not many people can do that, and the people that do it, they do it really well, like yourself. So no doubt all those people, even though there was a language barrier there, still they felt that because they can read body language, they felt comfortable around you. And with these guys, I was the same because I was training and playing with them for 3 years, and it's a pretty emotional thing to let go. Yeah, man, and I've still got that relationship with a whole bunch of them.
Yeah.
You know, like they send me stuff in Japanese. I don't even understand what they're saying, bro.
Yeah.
But just the form that just that we're having that contact. Their communication's still there. It's good. I put stuff in translator and put some smart ass remark back, but the communication's still there, which is good.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, cool. Just had to duck off to the toilet, but we're back. So France, how was that different in terms of the culture?
I really threw myself into the culture because when I was 18, I went over to France.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, played a season over there when I was young.
Yeah.
Man, I was 18, I was playing club rugby here. This French guy with the moustache and the goatee and the beret. Hey, Mr. Flavell, you want to come to France? Come play in France? I was like, oh, yeah, bro. I hadn't been on a plane, nothing, so I was like, yeah, I'll come to France. Didn't even ask my parents, nothing, Yep, I'll go to France. Straight away, just said, yep. So anyway, like honestly.
Just on that, sorry, there's heaps of power in saying yes to things, eh?
Yeah.
Like I've kind of worked this. I was talking to a mate recently, and we were talking about it, and just having the ability to just say yes.
Say yes.
Just say yes, and then you never know where it's going to lead or what's going to happen from it. But
unfortunately, I've said that all my life. Sometimes it's got me in trouble, but
but you learn from that too, though, don't you? Like, if you never make a mistake, you never grow.
No,
it's just like the All Blacks. They lost to Argentina, but look what they turned around and did. 2 weeks later, if you win all the time, you never lose anything. Oh, you never learn anything. As soon as you lose, you learn a lot. Yeah, same with making mistakes.
100%.
Life.
Yeah, so I went over there when I was quite young. I arrived in a very remote village in the south of France. Nobody spoke English. I mean, nobody. I didn't even have a translator, nothing. Nobody.
And you were what, 18?
I was 18. So I rocked up in this village. I was honestly, nobody could speak English to me.
Yeah.
So I did French lessons and learned all the grammar and obviously learned how to speak French. And then I actually went to the school and I started teaching them English.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, when I was 18. I had a girlfriend in my class. So I was 18, all these girls were 17.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my girlfriend was in the class, so I was teaching them basic English. And then, ironically, that's when Once Warriors came out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I asked the principal, I said, can I take my class to the movie theatre to watch this New Zealand film?
Yeah.
Because I've been teaching them the haka and stuff like that. Took my whole class to the film, and because I had a few tattoos, they started looking at me differently.
Oh, yeah.
after watching the movie, like honestly, it scared the shit out of them.
Yeah,
it scared the shit out of them. They looked at me, they kept looking back at me, like I could see them, feel them looking at my tattoos and stuff like that. They're like, oh, he's dangerous. He's dangerous. Yeah, toi tu es dangereux, toi. Yeah. And so when I went back to France, my later years, I instantly had that connection with them, and I went back to my host family where I lived when I was 18.
Oh,
went back and saw them, spent 2 Christmases with them, and
shit, they would have loved seeing you again.
Yeah, did all that, and obviously, I could speak better French now, and I can speak them, but I obviously improved over the 5 years I was in France as well. So so like my parents, my French parents, they're godparents to my kids and stuff like that. Yeah. So we got all that connection there, and I just really threw myself into the culture there, and the particular village where I was living in Bida, which is just next base south of Biarritz. There were quite a big sort of expat community there. A lot of old Kiwis there, like Michael Clamp used to play for All Blacks, and Jeff Bradburn, who was ex-Wellington, and Alan Duff, the author, was there. Yeah. So there's quite a good little community there. So we used to get together quite often, especially for Christmas and New Year's and that kind of stuff. And we just had a really good time. Our kids were obviously educated in France, and
They speak French?
yeah, they're all French speaking. So when we returned to New Zealand after 5 years, we kept the French thing going.
Yep. So they just did lessons and stuff? Or
No, we actually went to a bilingual school.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it was a bilingual school in Auckland where our kids were doing 3 days in French and 2 days English.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we kept that going for 3-4 years.
Yep.
They'll
never lose that now, will they?
Well, we hope not. We hope
yeah.
not. Yeah, I think it's sort of embedded in them now. You know, they would say true bilingualism is it's when you start dreaming in a different language. You know?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Do you do that? Like,
no, I don't. Because in my head I always translate. You know, if I want to say something in French, I translate English in my head. You know?
In your head, and then spit it out.
Then I spit out in French. And that's the way my brain works. But
Yep.
for my oldest daughter, India, like she thinks in French.
Yep.
And speaks in French. You know.
Yeah.
And she dreams in French as well. So it's she's definitely got it. And my youngest one, like she's done six years of schooling in French. You know, so it's there.
Yeah.
You know, she's too shy to speak it around Kiwis, but I'm sure it's there if she wants it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool, eh?
Yeah.
And we touched on it a little bit earlier, but like exiting pro rugby, because it's very, like you mentioned, it's very different in terms of the network that is around players now from the Wild West that we called it when you guys started. Like how, and you mentioned you've seen lots of people struggle with it and stuff as well. How did you find it coming out? Because you would have finished your professional playing career in France.
Yes.
Yeah. So you didn't come back here and play professionally at all in New Zealand?
No. So I finished professionally over there. I ended up playing.
Did you do Le Mage? Did you?
The chômage?
Yeah.
No. I actually tried to for a few months, and they clicked onto me and told me no. But I did finish playing club rugby over there. I finished with a season of club rugby for local club, which was just across the road from where I was living in France, and took them to championship after 25 years, and we won it.
Oh, wicked!
Yeah, so it was pretty big moment for Bida, and. But that transition, like I went back to building. I actually built I renovated or turned into a rebuild, an old 300-year-old Basque villa right on the beach on the coast of Bida. So I went back onto the tools because that's sort of what I knew. I've sort of stayed in property, throughout my career. So went back on the tools, did a big renovation there, and. Didn't really think about it at the time. I thought, I got this transition thing sussed, I know building, I know how to build. I'll just get back to building. That was my sort of mentality. But what I didn't realise was I wasn't handling it that well, because I sort of wasn't having those discussions with the people close to me, and probably could have handled that whole thing a lot better, because... Yeah, it was, and it is. It's a big transition.
Yeah.
It's huge, and for us, we as players, we sort of tend to focus on ourselves a little bit too much. Like it's okay. Oh, what am I doing now? Okay, who am I now? It's all me. But you actually have a massive impact on the ones close to you.
Yeah. Because in professional sport, you have to be me, because that's the only way you get ahead. Like you've got to focus on yourself first to be successful.
Yeah, and that was my mentality right through my whole career. I was like, man, I'm in full control.
Yeah.
I can be fitter. If I want to be fit, I'll run out there. I'll go out there and run. I'll be fit. I'll be super fit. I want to be strong. I'll go to the gym. And it's very me. And you find your slot within the team, but it's you manage yourself, right? And sometimes that takes you away from focusing on the people who are also involved, like your wife and your children. So when I look back now, at the time I thought, okay, I'm actually managing this quite well, but now I look back. That actually had an effect on my partner and my kids, because I threw myself back in the building. So I'd leave when it was dark, start building, and I'll come back when it was dark. Knackered, come back, eat, sleep, do the same thing the next day, and the next day, and you just get into this. Okay, who am I now? Okay, well, I was Troy Flavell, the rugby player now, but who am I now? And you're constantly trying to find that self-worth.
Yeah.
And that's what players, if you ever have a conversation with a guy who's come out of rugby, ask them that question, especially if you're going to do podcasts with future guys. And I guarantee you they'll say the same thing, that everyone's trying to find self-worth because you've been this person, this persona for so long, and you're popping up the other side and you're just trying to find yourself, trying to find your way. Okay, who am I now? And I don't really think about that at the time. I didn't think about that for about 5-6 years.
Yeah.
Out of popping up the other side. And then when I think back, I was like, yeah, that was a bit of a shit time, wasn't it? And didn't really sort of fall on me until, like I said, 5 years down the track. And I look back and I was like, yeah, I didn't handle that well.
Yeah, because it's as like an athlete or as a rugby player, I just find like we're so like task driven. Like me and my wife struggle on a few different things because she gets attached to. It's mainly when there's like negative comments directed at me, say they really affect her. But for me, it literally doesn't even enter my mind because I've built up this sort of barrier or thick skin because I had to survive.
Yep.
So, if you're worried about every negative comment or every post on Facebook or Instagram in a negative way about you, you'd never get out of bed in the morning,
Yeah.
because you're in the limelight and, everyone has their opinion and everyone can have their opinion now with social media.
Yeah.
She really struggles with that, and she struggles with the fact that it doesn't affect me, and it causes tension in our relationship because she's like, how can you not fucking rah? And then I'm like, just leave it because it's out of my mind.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to deal with it, but I don't actually ask, how are you? Are you okay with this? I don't talk through her feelings of it. I'm just like, shut up, I don't want to hear it. Because I'm trying not to let it creep into me, but I'm actually missing the point that it's affecting her. Yeah, it's not the fact that she's worried about me, it's the fact that it's actually affecting her, not the fact that she's worried that I'm hurting from it.
And that's what we're oblivious to, mate. And, I'm glad you mentioned that because at least you're aware.
Yeah.
You're obviously aware. You just spoke about it. But, yeah, man, it took me years to start thinking like that. You're still coming out of rugby to a degree. I know you're still in it, bro. I know you're still in it, but you're coming to your twilight years now. And so to have the awareness is fucking awesome, mate. Yeah.
But part of that too is that more people are, like yourself. I've been able to interact with people like you, and more people are more open to talk about, what they struggled with or how it was hard. And Mitchfit's a good example of that, So you guys paved the way for my generation, and then likewise I'll do the same for the generation that follows me in terms of guys like Quinn, like I mentioned Quinn earlier. There's all these guys that like I started playing with, like Marty Holler and Johnny Gibbs and people like that, Isaac Boss, that were all on my team that taught me good lessons, and then I watched them transition out, and then I dealt with Jono again when he come back coaching, and he talked to me about different things and made me aware of that transition period and how he went through it and what he kind of focused on. So it's there's so much importance in listening to advice and share, like also like sharing is
passing it on.
Passing it on. But I find the biggest thing about that is actually listening to it. I remember when I was a young fella, you go into a team and these old, like the experienced guys would tell you things and you're like, what does he know? Because you just got this natural arrogance, cockiness that you think you know what you're doing, but you actually don't. Like there's a skill, and we talk about it in rugby as well. When you're on the field, the biggest skill in communication is actually listening to what is being said. People always say, what could we do better? We need to communicate better, whether it's defensively or attack. But quite often, it's the actual listening part that's missing. It's like, I didn't hear a call. Well, the call was made. You just didn't listen.
Yep.
Yeah,
and that's all forms of communication, It's with your partner and,
business, the rest
kids,
of the day.
Kids. Listen to kids, putting yourself in their shoes,
Yeah.
Quite often, just an example, but my dad, I'm feeling cold.
Yeah.
You're not cold. You're all right. You know.
Yeah.
But you actually got to validate what they're saying. It's like,
Yeah.
you're cold, son.
Yeah.
You sure? You know, or not? Are you sure? But or, you know, maybe go put a jacket on for now, or whatever. You know, you got to just validate what they're saying.
Yeah.
And you know, same situation with your lady as well, mate. You know, you can put yourself in their shoes and think from their side of the bridge. You know. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's pretty because we've effectively been wired that way to survive in our environment. To like a large part of well, you know, pretty much when you're in there, like you're constantly getting feedback and pressure from coaches or teammates or senior players in terms of what you need to do better and what not to focus on and what to. So you're just like, okay, I need to go do this task. If it goes poorly, in rugby we're trained to bin it, you know, but it's like you train to bin it and move on. You try and learn from it, but there's still that element of forgetting it, like as well, because you're like, I can't let it creep into my next action. Yeah. So it's like it's quite easy to get into a bit of a state
we've got the ability to do that with and that's crosses over into real life, right? Real life situations where you have something. I don't want to hear that, or it's something negative. But generally, when it's something negative, you go, piss off, you know. No, I don't want to deal with that. You know, with that, I'm just going to focus on the good. You know, I'll focus on the stuff that makes me happy. You know, and not address the shit stuff. You know. But as we know, you know, sometimes you need to address that so you can actually push forward. You know.
Well, it's that being aware of who's around you and how it's affecting them and how they're dealing with things, and it's it's something that I'm glad that I'm like aware of now, but it's definitely taken time to get to that point.
Oh yeah. Oh man, I'm still learning.
Well, I think we all do to a certain extent, but I was like in terms of my career, me coming back to New Zealand when I did was actually a big part because I was quite fearful of what was going to happen after rugby, and I knew the support network. So I'd spent 6 years in Japan. I came back here at 30. I was 31, turning 32. And I came back because I knew, I could have searched out another contract offshore, and I'm sure I would have got something. I don't know what, but I'm sure I could have. But I was I had two goals. One of them was to make sure that I was in a good position for when I retired, because I knew that, that was getting closer because I was 31. But the other thing, I wanted to be a centurion for Waikato. So that was a big driver for me. I want to go home, want to become a centurion. I'm not too focused on the money side of it. I'm happy with what I've done financially with my 6 years in Japan. And I had a goal when I went there, and I achieved that goal financially. So I'm like, okay, don't get greedy. Now it's about making sure the transition out the other side is going to be better. So I knew that I was not going to come home and get paid peanuts. But I was just I knew also the power of the network of New Zealand Rugby, and I knew the Players Association and how good they are now at what they do. I knew the network in terms of what Waikato has out into the community in terms of, the board members and what they do in society, and you're spending time with these guys, and you can, with the podcast, these are all successful CEOs or CFOs in these big companies, and I can go and talk to them and ask questions about what I'm doing and different ways to do things. And if I'd been overseas and just come back and then tried to go knock on the door, it's a little bit different. When you've been sort of 6 years disconnected from it, and the board is different now compared to when I left. But in the fact now that I came back and I dealt with them and seen them, talked to them on a daily basis, that network started again. Now we're doing the podcast, it's amazing the reach you have out into the community and these people that rugby connects you to be able to lean on for support and help. It's pretty powerful tool, rugby in New Zealand. Yeah.
That's good, mate. Well, you've obviously been through those years. You've spent those years where you've learned to appreciate that kind of support, and you've had that available to you, which, we've been to the Wild West again. We didn't have that. No. We never had that, and even think of that.
No.
You obviously had enough of that in your playing years to feel that and want to come back to that. you know, for us, yeah, we're like, you know, we're Harbour guys through and through. You know, Harbour, Auckland Blues, you know, but there was that affiliation was never strong enough to draw me back.
Yeah.
You know, like it wasn't strong enough to draw me back into the country and make me want to play here again. You know, especially in my sort of twilight years. You know, I sort of done my dash here in NZ, and I was more focused on if obviously financially getting my family secure, making sure that part of things was okay. But I found myself searching. You know, once I came out of rugby, like I went back to building, but I wasn't really enjoying that, and you end up scratching. You know, I call it scratching because you start scratching at everything, trying to find something. You know. Yeah. And it's not there sometimes for a lot of guys, you know. Yeah. Yeah. Especially in my era, more so.
Yeah, oh, definitely. Like I got that from talking to the guys that packed the park. You know, like I talked to Case Muse, and he's like real successful now with his real estate. What he's doing down there in Dunedin, but he was like, bro, I didn't know what the hell I was gonna do when I finished. But there's also a side of that. And I look at it right through, I suppose, your era. Like there's a lot of very successful people that have come out the other side, but you always see the successful. You don't see the people that struggle because they hide it, because that's human nature. You don't want to be seen as a failure or failing at whatever you're doing. So you see all the successes and you're like, oh man, these guys are doing awesome. But there'll be a big portion of people that aren't. Yeah. But then also the ones that are successful, no doubt they are successful because they have that. The reason they're successful as rugby is because they're wired a certain way that they find what they want to do, they commit to it, and they work through it, and they get knocked down, but they'll get back up. And I think rugby teaches you that. And the ones that stay in the game for long
perseverance, resilience, disciplined. Just that drive. You got that drive to succeed, you know.
And you look at that group that played Pick the Park. I listed the names. They're like all Black greats, and you don't get to there without having that in you. So the fact that they're successful now outside of rugby is not really for me. It's not really a surprise because I know what it takes from being on the inside. Like I never got to that point, but my teammates did and friends did around me, and I seen what they went through to get to that point. And when you start to get to that pinnacle, like that real pointy end of it, everything is a lot more highlighted. And then what you have to push through to get to that last little climb to get to the top.
The 2%.
That little 2%. Then you're like, okay, like now I get why these guys are who they are. Like, like you can see why Dan Carter's Dan Carter. Richard McCaw, Sam Kane, you know, all these Kieran Reid.
And don't put me on that list. But sorry.
I'm just getting another beer.
Oh yeah.
Carry on.
Oh, good George. You're right, mate. You're right. I sort of lost my train of thought there. That cold, good George beer just bloody took over me.
Just jumped out. Something about a can cracking to a like it.
Mate, it's gold. Oh, is this the Raglan one?
Yeah. Do you want to try a little bit?
Oh yeah, okay. Better give it a whirl.
Yeah.
I can make a few comments this evening.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, good, George. Yeah.
Tasting notes.
Yes, Dylan, I got a few words to say to you, mate.
Talk to the head brewer. There you go. If you like it, I'll fill it up.
Thank you. It's gold.
Good, eh?
So good.
I love it, eh? Yeah,
man, it's really good.
Yeah.
Show me the label. Raglan Roast Coffee IPA.
They did it as a limited run, and it just went nuts.
Wow.
So it's like on tap at all their sites now, and they've just made it a mainstay.
Jesus.
Yeah. You can see why though, eh?
Oh,
so good.
Outstanding.
Yeah. Anyway, I'll put that back in the fridge. Where were we? We're talking about Richie McCaw and Dan Carter there.
Oh yeah, just that drive that is required, you know, to sort of get you to that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like we sort of touched on before, it's good to have that drive and and all that, but sometimes you blinker yourself off, from what else is going on around you. You're so focused, you can become so focused, but you sort of lose touch of what else. Oh, here's the dog.
Here's the dog. Who let you out?
Hello, mate. Hello.
I know who let you out. Mason did. Outside. Get out.
Yeah, so it's great, but to have that drive and that focus, the ability to hyper focus like that, on what's required on a particular task, and become very task driven is very good. And obviously in rugby, but on whatever chosen career you want to, path you want to take as well.
Well, you look at Richard McCoy's probably a perfect example of that, because right through his career, like, he was single, Well, from the outside looking in, he was single, because to stay at that level that he did for so long and under that microscope, he obviously had to fully blinker himself and just, he's a bit of an introvert, really. Like, he had no social media presence whatsoever. He literally, all you saw of him was when he spoke to the media after a game or after training or whatever, and then what he did on Saturdays. Like, that was all you seen. And that must be how he survived it, really. To stay at that level is just like fully lock himself into that zone, like, this is what I want to do, this is how I'm going to do it, and just commit to it. But no doubt a lot of stuff, like, people, I heard it saying the other day, actually, like, talking about, like, sacrifice. So, like, you make these sacrifices. Oh, it was Eric Murray, actually. He was on a podcast I listened to, The Rower. And he talked about, like, people say, like, rugby, you miss weddings because you got a Super Rugby preseason camp or training or a game, or you miss these birthdays because you're travelling and the rest of it. He was the same with rowing. He's like, that's not a sacrifice, because you've chosen that you want to be an All Black, or you want to be, rowing at the World Champs. Like, you've made that decision. Your sacrifice was right at the very start when you decided that was what you want to do, and you didn't want to be a builder or a lawyer. That's a sacrifice you made. Now, everything you do there is, what do you call it? He said it's like paying, well, it's basically like paying the toll for, or paying the performance toll, for the, what you're putting in. This is part of it now. You've chosen this pathway, so it's not a sacrifice. This is what you have to do, because you want to be at the top. This is what it takes. So it's not sacrificing anything.
It's not a sacrifice. That's just the byproduct. It's obviously a byproduct of the choice that you've made in the earlier stages.
Which, to me, it made so much sense, because people would say that a lot to me, and I'm just like, oh yeah, but I never thought of it that way. I'm like, I don't think of it as a sacrifice. Like, everyone's like, oh man, you sacrifice so much and this and that, and I'm like, is it really a sacrifice? Because I don't feel that way, because I love what I'm doing and this is what I want to do. And if you took this away from me, I would be gutted. I've devoted my life to it. Like,
perfect example of that is when I, in my school year, all my mates, when we turned 21, all my mates were doing yardies and all that. And, as we know, back in those days, doing a yardie was a big thing. And I remember being in Argentina with the New Zealand Sevens, sitting in a hotel room doing absolutely nothing because I was recovering from training, spending my 21st in the hotel room by myself. And I was happy, mate. Like, it didn't bother me in the slightest, because I was glad to be... Man, I was at New Zealand Sevens with Eric Rush and Dallas Seymour and all these NZ7 greats, right? I was part of the team, and I was a young fella, and I was like, mate, this is way better than drinking piss. You know what I mean? Like,
we can drink piss now on the podcast,
Good George.
Good George. Good stuff. And you have mentioned a little bit, but I thought it'd be pretty cool to talk about it. And obviously, being like a father myself, and this podcast got pushed back a few times because of the kids' sport. But like, how much satisfaction or that, like, do you take out of seeing your kids participate in sport? And
oh, mate, I'm there every week. All the trainings. Every weekend. The kids are playing netball and basketball now, which is all midweek stuff. Volley's indoor, netball's indoor sometimes. But mate, I'm just a proud dad, you know.
Yeah.
Absolutely love
Mason's just walked in the room.
it. Hey, Mason.
You want to be on the podcast, mate? Say hello? No, you're kind of shy. That's right. We're just talking about...
Come do a little rap on the mic. Come on.
Yeah, he's gone all shy. You go look after the dog if you let him out, eh?
I didn't let him out.
Oh, okay.
Plus he's tied up.
Okay. Good boy. Yeah, so, well, speaking of that, because this little fella...
that was
here
quite
just,
timely, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was quite timely. But this little fella just started playing ripper rugby.
Oh, good man.
And for me, like, I get a little bit of anxiety around the boys playing rugby because it's what I'm known for, if you know what I mean. So, like, I hear comments already. Like,
So you want to push the pressures on him? Is that what you're saying? Or?
Nah, I don't want to. I don't want him to go.
You don't want it.
Yeah, I don't want him to go out with the expectation.
Yeah.
Because of what Dad did, that he should be this or he should be that.
Yeah.
And I already hear it now because Cooper, he loves it. Like, he's into it. That's what Dad does, and no doubt, like, I think that's just the way life kind of works, you know, because I grew up with Dad playing rugby. That's all I wanted to do. It was like, Dad play rugby, so I want to play rugby. And Cooper's the same. I tried to push him towards soccer and things like that, just to see, like, just to let him know that he doesn't have to play rugby. But nah, rugby was it. That's what he wanted to do. And that, you know, that's awesome. Like, I love that he loves to play rugby. And same with Mason. He's, you know, just sort of starting, and he loves it, but he's still finding his feet with it, where Cooper's all in. Like, he's like this, he loves it. He's pumped for it every week and loves going to training, and he'll wear rugby shorts every day. Like, that's what he wants to wear. And but I hear comments on the sideline, and I'm like, Cooper's 7, like, just turned 7 on Saturday, and he might score a try. They're playing ripper rugby. It's like his second year, and he might score a try, and then I'll hear the comment like, oh, he should do that. He's Dwayne Sweeney's son. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, he's 6. Like, you know, he was 5 or 6 at the time. And I'm just like, man, like, and I kind of fear for what's going to happen further down the track, if it makes sense. And it's just, because all you want to do is protect your kids, right? Like, you want them to enjoy and have fun. And I don't want him to lose the love of the game because of external pressures. Like, I love the game of rugby. And I think whether I was pro or not, I would still have that love for it because I just love everything about it. And I kind of see it in him already that he loves it. So I want him to stay in love with the game. Yeah. But I don't give two shits if he plays senior
what, bro?
reserves.
Yeah, I know what, bro. I think as parents, we overthink it a little bit.
Yeah.
And we want to be perfect parents and do the best we can for our kids. But mate, he doesn't see it. You know, he doesn't hear it, and he probably doesn't see it. You know.
Yeah.
So, you know, I don't know, as parents, we like try and protect our kids and do the best we can. But, mate, like if he wants to be a rugby player, he'll do it. He'll be a rugby player. It's not from you know, the dude on the sideline yelling out comments like that. You know.
Yeah, well, I think about it.
We get protective, right?
Yeah.
As parents, and I remember my son was coming through the rugby ranks, exactly the same thing. You know, you should do. He's Flavell's boy. You know, you hear comments like that, and man, I couldn't give a shit what he played. You know, as far as sport, you know, I just wanted to be happy. And that's the most important thing you can do. And you know, I think as a parent anyway.
Yeah, definitely, because you see it so often now. And I wonder whether I thought about this because I worked in community rugby with Waikato, and there's a big push now around participation and in sport and everything, and trying to get numbers back in sport and the rest of it, mainly in rugby, trying to get kids back into rugby. But for me, it's just there's more options now. Like, when I grew up as a kid, I didn't know there was anything else apart from rugby or soccer in the winter. Now you got lacrosse, and you can play basketball midweek and this and that. Like, I grew up here in the Waikato. Like, league wasn't even really a thing that you could do here.
Yeah, right.
It was like this closed society almost that I learnt about when I got to high school. But in Morrinsville, I didn't even know the rules of league. You know, like, you grow up, you play rugby or you play soccer, and if you play soccer, there's 2 teams, but if you play rugby, there's 40. Yeah. As junior boys, you know, like, there was just a lot. That's what kids did in Morrinsville, so it's what you know, I kind of knew. But now there's there's lacrosse teams and all these different sports, and we're multi-diverse nation
Yeah.
now, and a lot of people, from all different countries live here,
Yeah.
and they bring their sport with them, and their
Yep.
kids go to that school, so they're like, oh, they used to play lacrosse, so they're like, oh, I'm going to start a lacrosse team and teach these kids how to play it, and then it goes from there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like, and they talk about all this participation and kids back playing rugby, but
Yeah.
there's just more for them to do and try now, and that's
Definitely.
all good.
Yeah, which is great. Yeah. Like even and I'm obviously a rugby supporter, but rugby numbers on the North Shore, they're dwindling away. And why is that? But it's because basketball was taken over. Like basketball was huge on the North Shore.
Yeah.
I'm at the North Shore Event Centre most weeks, and the numbers just keep rising and rising and rising, and it's outstanding.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. But it's like, and I talked about it, like I'd started to mention it there, but like there's a pathway to professional sport now, and like basketball, 100% the booming in basketball numbers is Steven Adams' effect. Steven Adams makes the NBA, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, why can't a Kiwi kid from New Zealand make the NBA?
Yeah.
And if that's what you want to do, and that's the sport that you love to watch or you love playing it, sweet as. Like, if that's what you want to do, go for gold. And who's to say that we don't end up with, in 10 years' time, have 5 Steven Adams playing in the NBA, and then and then further down, you 10 or whatever. There might not be another one, but like,
Two girls from my daughter's basketball team from Carmel. They both got basketball scholarships in
awesome.
America.
Yeah.
Tony Dalton's daughter.
Oh yeah.
Taylor.
Yep.
Yeah. She got a scholarship. Obviously she couldn't go during COVID, but I think she's packing her bags now.
Cool.
And looking at heading over. So there's like you said, man, there's opportunities, big time.
Yeah, and I think the external pressure from parents too now comes a little bit from the fact that there is a professional pathway. Like when I started playing rugby as a junior kid, there was no such thing as pro rugby then. Like there was always the All Blacks, that everyone wants to play for the All Blacks, but it wasn't a career path. Even when I started high school, it was like just started as a career path, and I remember all my teachers like, there's no way you're going to do anything, like, you think pro rugby's going to take you somewhere, you're dreaming, but I was like,
whatever's.
Yeah, but I saw there was like a pathway now.
Yeah.
I was like, and in my mind I was like, I remember when I might have been about 16, and I found out that Super Rugby player, if you make Super Rugby, you get 60 grand a year. And I was like, oh, 60 grand a year, like, yeah, this is me. Like, my mates were like, doing building apprenticeships, and they were on like $3.80 an hour and shit. Yeah, when they left school at 15, 16, and they're making $3.80 an hour or $4.50 with a tool allowance or whatever. Yeah. And I was working at Countdown and making, I think I was making $4.70 for packing freezers, like, and I was like 60 grand, like shit, yeah, like here we go. And I remember I found it out. Baby. Yeah, I was like, I'm going for a run. And I remember telling my mum, I said, if I make Super Rugby, I'm going to buy you a sparkle. Like that was, and I did it, like I made the Chiefs in 2007. And I remember we went to the home show here in Hamilton, and I walked over to the site and I bought a sparkle, and I got it sent to mum's house.
Is that right?
Yeah. And I said it at 16, and then whatever, it must have been about 5
That's
or 6
amazing
years.
you had that career path available to you.
Yeah, I know.
When I was growing up, that wasn't even an option,
Nah.
That wasn't an option at all. Being All Black, that was an option.
Yeah.
So, but I didn't know there was,
Nah,
you could monetize that,
Exactly.
I didn't know that was a money spinner.
Yeah.
At the time, I didn't, But I just wanted to be an All Black, And I remember I watched a game of rugby and I'll go out and run for 80 minutes. Yeah. Because that's what they just did.
Yep.
So I thought, wow, if they're doing it, I have to do it, And I'll do that, as a kid. Yeah,
it's amazing, because I remember when I went to then, so I had this dream of like, I want to be a professional rugby player. I saw, I suppose I went through high school years of understanding that it could be a pathway, and then I worked hard for it, and then got my chance to play for Waikato when I was 17, like in my last year of school, debut on the Friday. Debut on the Friday for Waikato, and then play first 15 on Saturday.
That's amazing,
Yeah, it's a crazy story. Like, but when you're kind of in it, you don't really realise. It's not till you start sharing it with different people, and we go now 20 years down the track from that happening, and then people are like, "You did what?" And it's like, you know, the people at that time kind of remember it, but it's not saying that long lasts, if it makes sense. It's not saying, that, you know, it's 20 years ago, nearly 20 years ago. So people are like, oh, they don't even know that's relevant now.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until I played my 100 games for Waikato, and they did a few media articles on it and stuff, and they were like, oh, you know, like, what were you doing in 2002?
Yeah.
Because that's when I debuted as a 17-year-old, and everyone's like, hey, were you only 17? And then, yeah, so I had this like pathway of, I'd seen it, and I was like, okay, I want to get there, and this is what I'm doing. I got that chance there with Waikato, that I pushed through and then make Super Rugby. And I remember we went to the induction day, where they get all the first year Super Rugby players, and you fly down to Wellington. And I remember going there, and there was a big group of us, and I was stoked because, you know, 4 of my mates that we played Roller Mills together, all on the same team. So Brendan Leonard, Ella de Belmont, Richard Kahui, myself, plus another Toby Lynn, who we later on met at high school. But those 4, the 4 of us, we all played Roller Mills together for Waikato Rangers. We all make our professional rugby debut in the same year. So it was pretty awesome to share that with such a close group of mates. And then Toby obviously came into that mix through our high school years. We played our Waikato secondary schools and the rest of it all together. So it was pretty wicked having this group of, you know, like real tight group of 5 of us go down there all together. And I remember sitting in the induction, and they talked about it, because I think at that time there was 5 teams. So it's 250 fully professional rugby players in the country. And they mentioned that. And here I am thinking like, yeah, pro whatever. That, like, almost in a way, like, oh, that was, you know, this is kind of an easy thing to do. Just full unawareness of how difficult it was, because I had my blinkers on and I was focusing on what I could do to get there. But I didn't actually realise that by the time we got there, it was like 250 professional players in the country, because if you're playing NPC, you didn't make enough money to be professional unless you were playing Super Rugby. So I was just like, and then when they said that, I was like, what? Only 250 of us? And that's including yourself, you know, you're the Blues captain that year, and all these All Blacks and everything, and you're like, holy shit, there's only... And we're all kind of looking at each other like, holy shit, there's only 250 of us? And we're looking around the room, and there's about 40, you know, like in there. And we're like,
40 already.
40 already, and there's only another 210 of us out there. It kind of blew me away. Like, and I was... it was. I remember that, and I remember it vividly. Like, it's a real... it was quite a humbling moment for me to actually take it in and realise, like, holy shit, you've done pretty well to get to this point. Like, you want to, and I remember they said the average career of professional rugby player was 2.5 years. That's the average. And I was just like, oh, okay, it's not long, and it's still the same now. It's pretty similar. Like, people think, because you always remember the ones that play for a long time. You never forget the 1 years. The guys that play a season with you. Like, as a player you do, you remember them, but the public don't, because they some guys get a super contract and never play. But they, you know, they might be contracted for a year or 2 years, but don't get a game or play one game, and then they're never heard of again. But you always remember, you know, like the Troy Flavells, the Carlos Spencers, the Johnny Gibbs, Marty Hollers, like these guys that play for multiple seasons. So you think, oh yeah, it's a thing that happens for, you get in there and you make it and you play for a long time, but you're only remembering about 10% of the players, the cool guys that stay in there, because they're the ones that are doing all the media. They're the ones that. Oh,
I'm actually quite surprised. Like, I didn't know that statistic. Yeah.
But that makes sense.
It totally makes sense, because, you know, when you start thinking back into the, you know, the players that you've known for a couple of seasons, or, you know, sort of entered the frame for a little while and got injured or went overseas, or.
No, it's pretty cool. All right, well, we're just coming up on, what are we? Just coming up on 2 hours. Pretty good yarn, bro.
Was it 2 hour yarn?
Yeah.
Mate.
An hour 57 now.
4 Georges later.
Yeah, 4 Georges later, and a bit of rag and roast, and a few more to come, mate. We've got the party tonight. You. And if you're still listening to this too, all the listeners get 10% off on Good George online. I'll put it in. I would have already put it in the front end of this as well, but yeah, Real Tales before you check out on the online store and save 10%.
Thanks for having me along, Sweens.
Nah, thank you very much for coming, Troy. It was I was pretty excited to do this because, like I said, I actually thought you were a bit of a dickhead back in the day because I hated Harbour, I hated Auckland, I hated the Blues, but you're actually a good bastard.
You're not too bad yourself.
Cool, bro. Thank you.
Cheers, brother.
Shot, bro.